All right. Today we got Roderic and Roderic. So we talked a year ago, we talked about how to get free ad spend from Google, this program that you're really plugged in on. And you know, we released this video just digging into your knowledge on the topic, and it went really well. People got a lot of value from it. And so a year later, is it still working? Is this loophole closed or what?
Yeah, that was so good. The call last year, we had a ton of attention. A ton of people called in. Yeah, it's still working 100%. So it's $10,000 worth of Google traffic, and we show people how to do it.
Sweet. Yeah. So without further ado, we're just going to get right to the content, the existing content, but just so people know where, if they're interested in discussing more about how to get this ad spend from Google, where should they reach out to?
Yeah, they can jump on it. They can go to badaboost.com, BADABOOST.com, and just jump on a call with me. I'm happy to talk about it with anyone who's interested. I'll just preface and say that it works only for certain organizations, but generally we know how to hook people up as long as they are doing public good in some way, or they want to do public good in some way to help their business and help the world.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because it's a total triple win. It's like a win for Google, a win for your business, and a win for the world. And it's a very there's a lot of ways you can apply this. So really excited for people to dig in. So without further ado, let's get right to that content.
You can see how much you can have a direct effect. And just by doing it smart, you can actually have a huge impact. Imagine having an impact on a charity. You got them a grant. That's huge.
The way that you're laying it out, it almost seems like it's dumb to not be doing this as a part of your business. Obviously, there's costs associated with, but it's at least something to test, given that there's such a large component of literally free traffic and attention and leads that you're going to be generating as a result. All right, Roderic, welcome to our VidTel podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we just were chatting for quite a while before we went live here, but one of the things that I know a lot of people, entrepreneurs and people, who've been fortunate to have some level of success is that comes up a lot is, how can I give back, right? And how can I do it in a way that is, true to my own intentions, true to my values, and also that's going to have an impact. And we're going to get into some really tactical stuff that I think that comes from your world that you've discovered around AI and VSLs, for instance, and also actually getting Google to give you money, like a significant amount of money for advertising in terms of Google ad grants.
About $120,000 worth of ad spend every year.
So talking six figures of free ad spend from Google. We're going to talk about all that, but want to start here, which is, I know in your conversations, a lot of people want to give back. All this ties together, by the way, for everyone listening. People wanting to give back and kind of struggling with cutting a check to some charity. What kind of conversations have you had around this with entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so I actually started working with NGOs trying to solve my own problem. I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to solve something, within us, right? And so my problem immediately after my divorce about 2 years ago was, what am I actually doing here? I was doing Facebook ads. At the same time, there was that whole sort of outcry about the Instagram effect on teenage women. Teenage girls, I should say, and depression and self-harm and all that. And I've got two little girls. And so that just turned me right off sort of the corporate world. And I was determined to work for an NGO or start an NPO or do something. And so I kind of muddled around for about 6 months, mainly talking to actually NPO people. And at the end of the day, they're really nice people, especially in France, but they really are just there to collect a check, I felt. And I thought this is really ironic because the business people I know, including yourself, and we've known each other a while, there's always that deep desire to do something else, but no idea how to do it. So at that point, I had the same sort of idea. I was like, well, hang on. If I can't, there's no way I can bring these NPOs into the marketing world and teach them lead gen. I mean, they're never going to get it. And so I started moving more towards the entrepreneur and seeing how we could perhaps make them into a social entrepreneur. The problem that kept coming up that I paid most attention to is this idea that I want to give back, but I'll do it when I'm a millionaire, when I'm 60. That's the time to do it. But it doesn't stop that niggling feeling, I think, inside of us all to actually do something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that was the main sort of feeling was I don't have a vehicle, therefore that's going to take time and money. I'd love to give back, but I'll do it later kind of thing. And also the problem that you said, which is, entrepreneurs are innately productive and effective people. So we kind of hate the idea of throwing money at charities.
I'm wondering if you could talk about that. How does that whole process work?
Everything changed for me when I watched a TED Talk by Dan Pallotta. His argument is that social businesses have been hamstrung and that the corporate world has a massive advantage, namely because of this kind of ethical dilemma that we're talking about, which is that people feel like they can't work in a nonprofit or do any social good and be paid for it. So there's kind of this feeling like either I'm digging a well in Angola as a poor volunteer, or I'm going to be like a Facebook tech executive and make a ton of money, and to hell with charities. And I just think that social entrepreneurship is that actual middle ground where you can actually solve both problems. There's always going to be 10% of people who are disadvantaged. And frankly, the market, big pharma is not going to make a drug and spend all those years of development and billions of dollars if it's only going to help a small group of people in the Amazon forest. For example, there's this disease called I saw recently called Chagas disease, which basically just, have you heard of it? It's
like a parasite or something.
Yeah, it's a parasite that shuts down your organs like very, very slowly over time. And there's been no money put into that, even if it does affect millions of people, just because there's no profit, right? So there's always going to be this need for the nonprofit sector. So the next thing I learned is that actually working with people who have skills in an area and aligning their business is actually much more helpful than just saying, I want to help save the children. It's not going to come from a rich philanthropist with a pipe and a beard throwing money at something. It's going to come from marketers and all the skills you have as an entrepreneur, because actually what charities really, really need, they're all like, oh, how do I generate leads? So your community and the people I work with are really, really good at that stuff. Or if it's not specifically digital marketing, it might be just the business acumen they've gathered over years and years of being professionals, being entrepreneurs. So that's where the pieces come together.
That's super interesting. I mean, it's crazy that in the end, it is a leads and closing situation.
It's all the same. Everyone has the same problems. We've got a guy in Malaysia who basically teaches like aspiring entrepreneurs who come from underprivileged backgrounds, who want to learn lead generation skills or whatever. So he gives away this 4-day, he got the grant from us. He gives away a 4-day course, all that stuff that you've developed over the years that you kind of hold close to your chest, like, you've been building these programs and it's like, I can sell it for $1,000 or whatever. We actually ask the entrepreneurs, and this is the social entrepreneur part, to just give that away. And there's a ton of strategies, but all of our clients have an alignment with their business and the social good. And that's really the key to what we developed, is that it's completely aligned, and therefore you can have shared leads. Does that make sense?
So shared, yeah. So what does that look like just from a funnel structure perspective? Yeah. Let's say for the sales course, for instance.
So if you do sales closing, that's your thing. Well, guess what? People want that and need that. You can give that back. You don't have to be Mother Teresa to do social entrepreneurship. And this is the big difference. We just align it in such a way that we're now using the ad grant to give that stuff away, or competitions or whatever the case may be, to those underprivileged people in the world. So my whole point is that, if your skill is helping entrepreneurs with sales and AI, which is one of the current clients, then let's do that. Let's give it back, because AI is looming, right? The joblessness is looming like big time. And so what he's doing is teaching AI in sales, like how to write quick scripts, how to use AI to do conversations in GHL. He's basically using all these skills and stuff he normally charges a couple of $1,000 for, just giving it away. 97% of that stuff is received well by people who otherwise couldn't afford it. But there's always going to be 3% of those, and that's pretty much the active buyer percentage that we all know about in e-commerce and sales. There's about 3% of those people who really just want more of your content. So without even asking, basically, you make sales. The sales guy, he'll make $5,000 to $7,000, $8,000 mastermind sales in a month using the grant. So yes, he's making money. But hang on, he's taught 70,000 people on his 4-day course.
Yeah, it makes sense. And he's incentivized to keep doing it for a long time. Wow. So what sort of how many spots are available for these kinds of grants, for instance? Is this something that's pretty limited, or how's that look?
Well, it's only limited because, I mean, anyone can do this, right? I mean, all you have to do is, we believe that our sort of our value add is the structure and the legal framework and all that. It's called a parallel hybrid, and Coca-Cola have been doing it forever. There's a Vodafone Foundation, there's a Shell Foundation, there's tons of foundations, and in fact, Rolex and IKEA are actually full nonprofits. I don't know if you know that.
It's unbelievable.
So Rolex is a nonprofit. IKEA is technically a nonprofit, even though he was the richest European before he died in 2019. But so this parallel hybrid idea has been around forever, like 30 years now. And it's basically the social entity helping the business entity. But if you want to do it, you actually can. You need to get an IN number. You need to have, it's a lot harder in the States, basically. So you have a 501c or B, I think, right? So it might take you 18 months because of COVID. The reason, I just live here, right, in France, but a lot of people call it it's kind of like the Silicon Valley of NPOs. So the bar is much lower here. You have to speak French, of course, if you want to do it here. And there's a few hurdles, but
That's so interesting. I mean, because I know several French entrepreneurs, and I've heard that starting an actual business is quite hard. There's so much bureaucracy in France.
Yeah, I mean, look, an NPO is not easy here either, right? But it's a lot easier than waiting 18 months. You have to have a board, I think, for a charity.
I've heard that.
You have to have tax exemption status. You don't need that here. Okay. So the bar is lower. You just have to know sort of how to do it, right? And that's what we help entrepreneurs do in order to become social entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's crazy. And so what you're saying is basically these structures that you help people set up then allow you to have an actual business that generates solid profit and also is having a massive impact in the world.
Basically, we give them the tools to be able to go, okay, I want to give back. Now I've got a vehicle to do it. So basically we're running $10,000 worth of traffic to a VSL, and then people are getting their webinar leads through that. And then as long as that content is free, the webinar that they do or the workshop completely free, this is higher level stuff, because even if you were to get your own NPO or charity in America, you're looking at thousands of dollars, right? So it's not for beginners, basically. But if someone's already got a viable offer, they can totally get the grant. But there's a few steps involved.
Understood. And that's where you and your team come in, I'm sure.
Yeah, we set them up with a grant and run it for them. But the main thing is that the strategy is what guides them. The good thing about Google search ads is it is the closest thing, I think, to set it and forget it. I know you do a lot of YouTube ads. Is that the same or?
No, unfortunately, no.
At least that people keep coming back for that. But
yeah.
So what I was going to say, sorry, I got slightly distracted, is our social entrepreneurship part is that when an entrepreneur comes to us and set up their NPO and everything, go through the paralegal work and all that, once that's done, part of the deal is that we actually insist on giving them a buy one give one to a charity of their choice. Wow. So it's kind of like Tom's Shoes. I don't know if you remember that old campaign.
Yeah. Tell us more. Yeah. Well, so walk us through the Tom's Shoes.
Super famous campaign going back 15 years in the States. I think they still do it. We actually have a client now who is doing the same thing, and it's actually they actually do shoes specifically for people with wide feet. So they're actually helping people with wide feet with all their content. Here's some hygiene advice and all that sort of thing. And then they give away a pair of shoes to someone in need. So Tom's Shoes was this great idea of, for every pair of shoes you buy from us, we'll give to someone in need. And we do exactly the same thing. We do work with an amazing Indian charity that helps to empower women with employment. So, India had 33% women in the workforce 10 years ago. Now they have 23. So it's actually getting worse.
Wow.
Right. So we help them. That's completely a charity. We do that pro bono. We don't charge them a cent. So effectively, when you said paying it forward, that's what it is. These entrepreneurs kind of pay their indulgence, which is the old Christian way of looking at it. They pay for their sins. We take a lot of that money and we just put it straight into helping charities. So you see how it really is paying it forward.
Is there any limit on what the amount of people or companies that Google will apply this grant to, do you think?
You have to prove that you're doing good, right? So that's where writing the mission and the vision and the alignment strategy all comes in. None of this is exploitative. We really are creating social entrepreneurs who, yes, they gain with leads, but they're still doing a lot of good. If you've got something to give away, then it's perfect for you, especially if it's an info product, because it costs you nothing to give away.
Right.
And so it's not only underprivileged people, right? It's just giving it away, which is the point. So as long as Google deems you as doing social good, there's no limit, and you can have multiple brands. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
One of the parts of this which is interesting, is that you can totally retarget as well. You can put your Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Pixels, and then you can actually do paid traffic as well. In fact, we tell all our clients you'd be silly not to, because you've already, the biggest expanse really is like the first touch point, right? Same in YouTube, I'm sure. When you do your it's like just getting them there the first time is the hardest part. So when you retarget them, it's pennies on the dollar. So it's all, it's pretty effective.
That's amazing. And then you run it in a separate account?
So the retargeting has to be run in a separate account. Right. Often our clients will run that themselves, or we do it. We've got a bunch of partners. We actually work with a guy who had the first SEM agency in the world. He actually wrote the only book on, so people could have a look at that. Actually, that could go in the show notes. And that's really, really interesting. It'll actually show you how to do the whole thing. That's
so cool. So, bro, just jumping out to something totally tactical, this AI VSL situation, how's that working for you? That's super interesting.
Yeah, and that's just me being a marketer. That's nothing really social.
Always experimenting. But
just always experimenting.
Making the good happen with cool stuff.
So one of the best things about the ad grant is that it's free, right? So you can test traffic. So yes, you're testing it for social good, but at the same time, because you're aligned, so why not test all the time? Because every day that you're not running ads, you're losing $329 of free advertising. So at midnight, you just lost another 329. So there's no point like building everything out and going, okay, we've got a budget for $300, let's test it. We just keep testing. Not only do we make AI VSLs, and we use video avatars, meaning it is an AI video of a guy talking, and the voice is AI generated. So using heygen.io, I think, or AI, and then using 11 Labs for the voice and putting them together, which makes it incredibly fast and efficient, because you don't need the client to actually read out the script. But not only that, we do interactive videos. So imagine you've got a 5-minute sort of, VSLs can be 45 minutes, but we do 5 minutes, and we break it up into 5 parts. So you've got the lead in, you've got the intro, the pitch, and then you might have the sort of the test, the social proof, and then you'll do the closer. And so instead of doing the first 5 parts, what we do is we do the lead in, which is, you could call the lead in the hook. It's just the extended hook for 30, 40 seconds. We do 3 hooks based on VSL.ai. Is this confusing, or am I explaining it okay?
I think people get it. Yeah.
In VSL.ai, you'll go in there and you'll actually make three lead-ins based on the best VSLs ever written, right? So there'll be one which is kind of like this product versus that product, or the comparison nightmare. So there's all these different approaches on different subjects, and because he's got 20 in there, you'll choose like the best 3 that work. You can literally generate them all as an outline. You don't have to do anything. It's not perfect, but you get an idea, and then you choose the best 3. You take those, you leave the rest, and you just take the first part, the hook, and you just develop the first 3. It actually only takes an hour or so, right? You just, once you've done the first one, the other ones are really quick. You take those first 3, you put your AI avatars and a bit of B-roll. And now, because the traffic is free, let's just run 3 funnels and just A/B test those. And that's huge, because like you'll get 80% gains from the headline, right? So that's huge, because if you can test the lead in on a VSL, you're miles ahead of anyone, because very, very few people have the resources to do that. But you can with AI, and you can with an ad grant, because the testing is free.
So what does that look like coming off search traffic? So you'll run some kind of search ad. What kind of search ads work well? And then what kind of landing pages to contextualize the VSL work well? I'm just curious about how all that fits together.
Yeah, I mean, they're Google search ads like any other, right? You can't sell anything. I mean, it's important to note that, if you have a Google ad grant, you have to run the traffic to the nominated NPO, nonprofit website. You can't just suddenly send it wherever you want and stuff like that. So you have to be a little bit, you're still solving the same problems for people, right? We run a lead magnet that's killing it, called the Power Pitch Pro. How to create a pitch in less than 3 minutes, and that's killing it. And then we'll run them to a VSL where it says, hey, now that you've got that AI tool, and it's going to be amazing, check it out here in the video, like you should definitely use it. But did you know that sales is much more than just a pitch? And then the VSL goes on, and that might be the lead in, and we'll try another lead in, which could be something a bit different. and we'll test those 3 lead-ins. This is the stuff that's, I think, pretty hot right now, especially interactive video, because it allows you after 1 minute to cut it off and go, would you like to continue? So you've got the yes ladder, and you've got that whole micro commitment thing going on. And then you can just send them straight to the opt-in, right? You don't have to do the set part 2, part 3, part 4, the 4 minutes there. You don't have to actually edit because you're just testing the lead in.
Got it. So you're running that VSL after so you have like a lead gen landing page for
say, I would start with the actual landing page. The opt-in.
Yeah. I think that that level of being able to synthesize things and just identify opportunities and then actually know how to allocate your limited bandwidth and resources towards those opportunities. I mean, I don't see AI doing that right now. A quick technical question or legal question. So these leads you generate, so let's say they're for your MPO. And then you have an actual LLC or whatever. Can you co-reg these leads? Can you co-register these leads?
Look, co-reg is just a really good way of saying it. I just call them shared lead gen, right? The reality is that once it's in GHL, Go High Level, or once it's in ClickFunnels, or once it's in GetResponse, they're yours, and you can then send those emails.
Yeah, for sure. So GDPR wise, there's no real issues.
No, there's 0 issues. No, it's exactly the same. There's no difference.
Yeah.
And look, entrepreneurs I work with also make a ton of money. I mean, there's no doubt about it that this, and we created it with that incentive, which is that there is no, like I said earlier, there should be no shame in making money as long as you're helping people. I mean, who cares where Bill Gates' heart is, given all the money he's given back? I think I said to you earlier, like, when was the last time you gave away 10-15% of your gross wealth?
Yeah. And right? Bill Gates 10% is a lot different than my 10%. That's impressive.
It would hurt a lot more if it's in the billions, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't really, one of our ethos is like, altruism is a misnomer, because ultimately we do it for ourselves. We're always trying to solve our own problems. And one of those problems is the guilt we have in not giving back. And so if we can incentivize that, so you're giving back without losing your shirt, then I think that's fine. All that matters is you're giving back, right?
Yeah. That's crazy. And it's such the whole charity starts at home thing is really interesting. And it really hits home when you say that for me, because I think about, going back to, I'm from Southern California, and I go back, and I don't live there right now. But whenever I go back, I see you have countless hundreds, thousands of Americans living under freeways. You're not talking about like people displaced from civil wars somewhere remote to the West. We're talking about, where's their American dream? And I think, like you're saying, if you have these aspiring entrepreneurs in the Rust Belt of America, and that all of a sudden they're making some cash, they're spending it in their community, and magic happens from there. So
that's exactly what Dan Pallotta talks about. And I really implore people to click on the link in the show notes, because I'm sure you'll put it. He's like, we've just been hamstrung. So poverty in the United States has been stuck at 12% for 40 years. Like, why is there no cure for cancer? Why is it not working? It's because it's almost this taboo. Like, you cannot earn money if you're helping people. It just makes no sense, because anyone who's got the talent, or the high flyers, they're just going to go straight to McKinsey and Facebook and Google, because they're like, I'm not prepared to give up, helping my family and making good money, because they think it's binary. You're either rich and capitalist, or you're socialist and poor, and it's just not true. There is a middle ground, and that's really what this whole thing is about.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting too, because I don't know that much about big MPOs. I know like the head of the Red Cross makes close to $500,000 a year, which, running an organization like that, you better be cream of the crop. Otherwise, you're going to run it into the ground, right?
Well, see, it's a really good point you made. I did not know that statistic. And it's kind of like, well, if you're not paying $500,000, you're going to get some guy with a good heart who doesn't know what lead gen is.
Yeah.
And you can have no impact whatsoever. I think I said this to you before, but I'll read it out. He said, it's interesting that we have a visceral reaction to people making a lot of money helping people, but we don't have a visceral reaction to people making a lot of money not helping people. So if you do a video game and you make 50 million, you'll be on the front cover of Wired, right? But if you're actually paid something approaching correct amount, in a tech firm, 250,000 a year or something like that, and you're helping people, well, now you're Satan, right? And
Yeah.
that whole attitude has to change, because it makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, helping is better than not helping, irrespective of how much money you're making. You remember sort of you had the Reformation in Spain. You could actually pay for your sins and stuff. So that was called indulgence.
Right.
And so there is this idea that you shouldn't in any way profit from helping people. And I think that's just, that's a hangover from a hang up, if you like, going back generations and generations. There's no way that social businesses and nonprofits are going to get anywhere close to the success of capitalist organizations, and therefore help that 10% who are always going to struggle. It's never going to happen if we don't change our attitudes a bit about that, right?
Yeah.
And every single American entrepreneur I talk to brings up that, well, is this ethical? And it's like, dude, you're going to be helping literally thousands and thousands of people every month. How could that be a bad thing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting too, because only, you or the individual might be the only one who identifies both the need, the want, and then also the way to solve it. What you're doing is arming people with the ability to go after and actually make a difference directly, versus some kind of trickle down feed, give $100,000 to the Red Cross, who, by the way, I'm sure they're doing amazing work. Like Bill Gates he's set out to cure the world of malaria, which affects millions of people. Amazing. Incredible. Keep doing that. But this allows people like you and me to go in and say, hey, I see in this particular community, there's this issue, or this particular slice of the American community, whatever. Let's go.
Depending on what they do, right? So we have to align it with what they do. That's
of course.
You're totally right. And so we'll do a call once a month, and it's kind of like, okay, how are we going? I feel like, I'm kind of like the campaign manager. Okay, so here's the results. We had about 20,000 hits on the page. Or it might be, we've got 3,000 leads. Well done. Those people got all your free content, and you're helping them. We help another charity in India, and they help teenagers get through school. That's what they do. Again, not a Mother Teresa project, but it's super important that those kids get through school, and they don't have any funding. So as a result, we're going to be giving them an ad grant, completely free. So you can go home to your wife or your husband and say, look, it's pretty cool. Like, without that grant, they wouldn't have got 4 times the results they're getting. Now they're suddenly advertising. You can see how much you can have a direct effect. Just by doing it smart, you can actually have a huge impact. Imagine having an impact on a charity. You got them a grant. That's huge.
The way that you're laying it out, it almost seems like it's dumb to not be doing this as a part of your business. Obviously, there's costs associated with, but it's at least something to test, given that there's such a large component of literally free traffic and attention and leads that you're going to be generating as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. And Google's been doing this for 20 years, and they just changed the whole process. So all the interfaces and everything changed. So it's extremely unlikely they're about to stop. And look, it is free money. I mean, there's well over 1 million charities in America, and we think it's around 150,000 grants. So there's kind of money just being wasted. And that's one of the reasons we help charities get the grant, because some of them don't even know it exists. Mm. And when they know it exists, the problem is, of course, that they don't know how to run it. So that's our socialpreneur side of things. It's free advertising going begging.
So, Roderic, where can people actually go sign up to talk to you or your team and actually get into more of the details on how this could look for their business? So
people can go to batterboost.com. I'll actually have the playbook that I talked about. It's an Amazon bestseller because it's the only one on ad grants.
Crazy.
But he's really well known in the industry. And people can download that. Otherwise, people can get in touch and talk to us about becoming a social entrepreneur.
Awesome, Roderic. Some amazing info here for everyone. And what a cool thing you're doing.
Thanks very much, man. We do our best.
Awesome. Thanks, Roderic.
Cheers, mate.